And when I'm leading worship, I am always conscious about, it's almost like in my heart and in my mind, I'm reaching out to the person in the back corner who maybe does barely, even maybe they don't want to be there, or they're hurting. They don't even have the energy to sing. I'm consciously trying to serve them.
Welcome to The Climb, where I help Christian men live fully, lead boldly, and leave a legacy that matters. I'm your host, Teko Bailey, husband, father, life coach, and your guide in the climb. Whether you're navigating fatherhood, building a business, or simply longing to live more purpose, this is the space to rise. Welcome to The Climb. It's a pleasure having you here. You've been known to be in the music industry for over 35 years as a songwriter and as a producer as well. You're well known in many circles, especially as it comes to worship music. Come, now is the time to worship, Faithful One, and Hope of the Nations. You're a JUNO Award winner and a Dove Award winner. You're a Lifetime Achievement Award in the Gospel Music Association of Canada. I think having some of those achievements are significant. But what I wanted to ask you is, what's the biggest thing that music has done for you over the years?
Well, I think, interestingly, music, I think the biggest thing it's done for me personally is it provides personal renewal. It lets me know that I'm not alone, whether I'm writing music in private or singing it, preparing for something. There's something about stepping into a song, stepping into a melody, and it's like you're stepping into a river that's been flowing from far long before I was here, and it will be
Yeah.
flowing long after I'm gone. And when I participate with melody, with lyrics, even though the song may be fresh and unique, I'm part of a bigger song, if we could use that metaphor, um, which is so precious. And sometimes I get to travel to other parts of the world, and I I encounter a group of people on the other side of the world, maybe singing one of my songs, but singing it in their language.
Yeah.
And it's like that. Wow, we are all on this journey together. We're connected. We are, um, and then I don't feel alone, right? Like, and I think, our struggle with feeling alone is one of the biggest human struggles. And so music helps with that.
I like that. I think music has the power to break barriers and to bring healing, as you've mentioned. When did this start for you? At what age did you realize you enjoyed music, you enjoyed
Mm.
writing? Take me back a little bit to some of those early years.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked, because I'm having this conversation with you today in a place that has mattered to me, because I was 4 years old 55 years ago when my mom picked out this little farmhouse on 5 acres outside of Abbotsford, British Columbia. And she said, we were just moving back from Paraguay. My dad had been teaching there for 2 years. I was 4 years old. We're going to live there. And this is where I'm speaking to you. Just a few feet from where I'm speaking to you, there's a ginkgo tree. And under that ginkgo tree, in the summer, with the summer breeze fluttering the leaves, making sounds, I started hearing the whispers of God as a boy. And that's where the inspiration started, I think. And I also realized that I loved music. I didn't think I had like talent to be a songwriter for a living. I just enjoyed it. It moved me. And I started trying to find ways to sing those whispers back to my maker, or sing stories to people to encourage them that they're loved. And I think it all started in this place.
Yeah.
And being hearing, I have a song called Creation Calls, which starts with I have felt the wind blow, whispering your name. I have seen your tears fall when I watch the rain. And those were experiences that I had as a boy. And I eventually just, took those whispers, those experiences, and I put them to music.
Wow. This reminds me of reading about King David in the Bible and just his early days where he was tending the sheep and singing and just having his own relationship with the Lord, playing his what's that, the harp, or the
Yeah.
lyre actually, and just making music. I could just kind of picture you there doing that.
Mm,
Uh, I grew up listening to some of your music. Come Now Is the Time to Worship and Hope of the Nations were two of the biggest ones. And I remember when Hope of the Nations just came out, and my aunt rushed to buy the CD.
mhm,
And that was just a really powerful one because I just remember just the words and learning to play some of the chords for that. And it was just amazing. I think Come Now Is the Time to Worship. It's one of those lifetime type of music that it never fades. It's one of those that lasts for a long time and a lifetime. So I love how you've had the ability to hear God in those moments and
mm,
create songs that can take people uh, throughout time and also throughout different situations that they might be going through. What was it like for you as you were writing some of those songs? You talked about the early years sitting under the ginkgo tree. Um, what are some of those moments like as you sit to write the songs? Are you just always hearing directly from the Lord? Take me back into the mood as you have written some of those songs, or maybe what was happening around you as you were writing them.
Well, yeah, I'll try and briefly describe both of those because they're both totally unique and different. Hope of the Nations is my 9/11 song.
Wow.
About 2 days before 9/11 happened, of course, we had no idea that 9/11 was about to happen. I started writing a song. I kind of was struck by this scripture in Matthew, and in his name the nations will put their hope. So Jesus, hope of the nations, Jesus, comfort for all who mourn. I was thinking about how all throughout the nations of the world there's both beauty, but there's also tragedy, and there's as people wrestle with their mourning, and their grief, Jesus can draw alongside us and say, I know.
Yeah.
I've wept too, you're not alone. And so I started writing the song, and I was booked to get on a plane on September the 12th to fly to Dublin, Ireland. We were preparing for a live recording that was going to be come out the following year called You Shine. And but of course planes weren't flying on 9/12
Yeah.
because on 9/11 what had happened. And so I literally had started the song, the verses were written, and as I was watching the news feeds on 9/12, 9/13, almost like with tears running down my eyes, I wrote, in history, you lived and died. You broke the chains. You rose to life. You are the hope living in us. You are the rock in whom we trust. And I wrote the rest of the
Wow.
song there. So that song has always been connected to that kind of seismic shift in culture and sort of saying, there's one group saying, you're mistreating us. You're not paying attention to us. So we're going to solve it through violence,
Yeah.
and we're going to solve it through intimidation and fear. And I start thinking about, well, how did Jesus come and approach our problems that needed to be solved? He he sacrificed himself. He made a way in history. And it wasn't just abstract philosophy. It was something that happened in history. So that was Hope of the Nations. Come Now Is a Time happened a few years before that. We had found out our son had Fragile X syndrome and would require care for the rest of his life. And that was a pretty weighty revelation for us to find out. Um, and then we had been launching a musical called Father's House, and that
Yeah.
musical collapsed. The album did really well, but the stage musical initially collapsed. We were almost bankrupt. And I was offered a job on the other side of the world in London, England. And so we arrived in London not knowing a soul with
Wow.
five young children working for a church in London. And one morning I went walking on the streets of London, praying, struggling. I mean, it was a tough season. We had lost our house. We had lost a lot trying to launch this musical, and it hadn't come together for us. And all of a sudden, there was this like energy crackling through the atmosphere all
Wow.
around me. It was like I was being visited by the presence, by the love of God. And then I heard it. Come, now is the time to worship. And I was like, now? You know, like now I'm out here I am walking the streets. I'm struggling with my faith. I've tried to be faithful. I've tried to walk in the way I believe you want me to walk,
Yeah.
and it hasn't worked out very well in some ways in my life. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's like this project collapsed. We lost all of our money, our house. Our son has Fragile X syndrome and will require care for the rest of his life. Like, where where are you?
Mm.
What the heck is going on?
Yeah.
And um
Yeah.
now is the time, you know, that which is why I wrote. By the time I got home, all I had was the opening line and this profound experience that I was being invited to come to worship, but just as I was, like
Yeah.
with my brokenness, I wasn't together. I wasn't like dressed in my Sunday finest. I was in
Yeah.
my sweatpants going for an exercise walk on the streets of London.
Yeah.
And so I wrote phrases like, come just as you are,
Yeah.
you know, because I wanted it to be, if I was going to sing it and if anybody else was going to sing it, it had to be an invitation for them to come as they were, not as with no pretense, no pretending. And yeah, and then so surprised, you know, what happened with that song. You know, it I a couple of weeks later I tried it out with our local church in London where I was leading, and within weeks we started hearing reports of it being sung around the world. It hadn't even been recorded. But what happened at that season with the Southwest London Vineyard, which was pastored by John and Eleanor Mumford, who are the parents of Marcus Mumford of Mumford and Sons, by the way.
Wow.
Marcus was actually my drummer in my worship team. But anyway, um, but people would pass through because this was like the mother church of the movement in
Yeah.
that part of the world. So they
Yeah.
would be in Africa or Asia or South Africa or whatever. They would pass through, and I guess a whole bunch of people were there on the Sunday I introduced it, and they like were grabbing charts off the stage and stuff.
Come
And then
on.
they just carried it wherever they were going, and they started teaching it. And they started with mistakes in it or whatever, not even the final
Yeah.
version. It was just funny. So it just something happened, you know, and I was like barely hanging on to my faith,
Mm.
and um, which is why I wrote it the way I wrote it. And so it's been a gift to see what's happened with that song, like out of my own brokenness
Yeah.
and bewilderment.
Wow.
Something good still came.
Isn't it powerful how God can just use us in the most broken times and the most broken places when we make ourselves available to him.
Hmm.
And, you know, unless a grain of wheat falls, it doesn't get to multiply. And to me, that story is such a multiplication of, even though you were going through a painful, very difficult season, you were willing to give that to God, or at least allow him to use it, and just step out in obedience and in faith.
Mm. Well, I mean, yes, but you need to know, and I think you would probably understand this, that I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, you talk about stepping out in faith and obedience. Well, I guess, I mean, I was willing. They called me and said, "Would you come and train our worship leaders and our songwriters?" And I was like almost like looking around. You want me? I just went through this massive failure
Yeah.
with this musical and it collapsed. I'm so confused. You
Mm.
want me?
Wow.
So I wasn't coming with bold
Yeah.
faith, or I mean, I guess obedience, I guess willingness.
Yeah.
And in the middle of that, this song seed, this experience came to me and I just responded to it. And
Yeah.
I was so surprised with what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I absolutely love that. Just the rawness of everything that was happening. I think the song too carries that weight. You can feel it. You can feel it is so deep and refreshing. I know you talked about just how raw that season was, but how have you made it through some of those difficult moments as you've been with the Lord, serving others and leading others as a parent, as a husband? How have you made it through some of those seasons? Did you have a community around you? Who
Mhm.
kept you going in those times?
Yeah, well, great question. And it's it's both the community, the village around me, and it's also those my closest community, which is my wife Joyce and my six children, and now our son-in-law. Like, you know, let me start with my wife. Joyce, we've been married for almost 41 years. And we started
Wow.
dating when we were 15, married at 19. And she's not a musician. She's not a type of person that's impressed by words.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she's not that interested in long sermons and this and that. What she is, she's a heart person, a hard worker, and very practical. And we love each other. We're crazy about each other. We are
Come
in
on.
love with each other. We go on a date every week.
Come on.
We have for almost basically our married life. We find ways to support and encourage each other. I find ways to support and encourage and invest in the things that she's interested in, which is different than the things that I'm interested in. And she shows up for me when I'm doing whatever I'm doing that I'm called to do. And we yeah, so we trust each other, we listen to each other, we date each other.
Nice.
And I this last year I released actually an album of love songs where I said the world is filled with songs about falling in and out of love, but not a lot of songs about staying in love. So I recorded a dozen songs about long love, and partly to honor her and to say
Yeah.
thank you to her for 35 years of standing with me as I've been writing these worship songs and these other songs of faith. Sometimes people can get so lost in kind of, when I say, almost like religious duty and religious jargon and stuff, and it's not
Yeah.
rooted in real life, earthy
Yeah.
walking in faithfulness with your spouse, with your children, with your friends. caring for the people around you. So she's the anchor of that. My four daughters are amazing. I would say I'm friends with my four. They're all adults now.
Nice.
The twin girls are 30. Our second daughter is 35. No, she's 36, and our eldest is 37. And then our two boys. Now, what's interesting is our two boys have Fragile X. Both boys do, so they don't really speak, but they can communicate in basic ways through some basic signs. And that has been a huge part of keeping me anchored, keeping me stable during all the ups and downs of an artistic creative life. Because
Yeah.
when you're an artistic creative person, you feel things deeply, you're sensitive, and then you try something out and certain things resonate with people and then certain things don't. And then you could feel like, oh man, that didn't resonate very well. What's
Yeah.
wrong with me? I must be a loser,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
You can go to
Yeah.
like worst case scenario.
Oh yeah.
Well, my boys, they don't understand. They don't give a rip about the fact that I do music or I do whatever. All they care about is am I there when they need me?
Yeah.
Isaiah's like our youngest. Isaiah is 26, our baby. He's 26. That's crazy. But anyway, he when if I leave for a day or I leave even for a number of hours and I come back in the house, he notices right away. He comes out and then he starts motioning for Joyce, like my wife, like, and he's
Yeah.
insistent. And then
Yeah.
he's like, group hug time. Okay,
That's
we
right.
got a we got a group hug. Okay, you were out. I don't know, Dad, wherever you were. Of course, he doesn't say any of this in words.
Come on.
Whatever, wherever you're doing, we need a group hug. We need to reconnect. We're a
Mm,
family here. We love each other.
I love it.
Oh, we squeeze so
Yeah.
tight, until we're begging him, please, Isaiah, it's
Yeah.
enough now already. Like we know, you
Yeah.
know, and then, or if I come in the door and he's right there, he'll hug me, and then he'll point to Joyce, and then he'll point at her cheek, like I have to go over there and give her a kiss, or
Yeah.
else he's gonna like push me over there.
So
Well,
good.
as if I needed extra encouragement,
Yeah.
we have no problem in that
Yeah.
department.
That's so
So,
good.
and then there's just been other, people right around me. We walk with very dear friends, Marika Seward, who's a Christian Black recording artist here in Canada, and she's had a background in pop music, but she's also done worship music and film. We toured together. Her and her husband Stacy. Their three children are like they call us half parents.
Come
You
on.
know, and it's just so amazing. Like people like that. Brian Thiessen, who I've been friends with since I was 5 years old, and he's been on almost every record I've ever done playing guitar. Like
Yeah.
these are long friendships. What's that expression? A long obedience in the same direction. I mean, you could fill in a long friendship, in the same direction, a long life of faithfulness in the same
Yeah.
direction. So yes, in some days, um, are very hard
Yeah.
because uh, I find the world is getting crazier. It's getting more and more, the escalation of language, of violent language,
Yeah.
of polarization. It's a difficult season. And of course, I think life has always been difficult, but we have some, and I have my days where I think, man, maybe I'm in, what am I thinking, like working on songs and like
Yeah.
floating out a song into the world, like how's that
Yeah.
going to change the world? And I go, but it's in some ways it's all I have, and the loving relationships that I walk in, and then I go, throughout the history of the world, change and beauty has entered our world through fragile things like songs, through acts of service, through words of kindness spoken at the right time. through the creator kind of inspiring us. I mean, you think about the way the world renews itself through seasons, and I think, there's that Wendell Berry poem about, where the wild, going to rest where the wild things are, and having our soul just calmed. I so desperately want to become a, a non-anxious presence in the
Mm,
world. I want where I go and whom I'm with, that they would, when they're with me, that they feel not a rise in anxiety, but a peacefulness and a encouragement and a comfort that they are loved. So, and that comes, so and like I say, like, what's the expression? Love people, hurt people.
that's
So
right.
I've been so blessed to be loved by my maker, by my wife, by my sons, by my daughters, by some of my good friends, by my parents. My mom, who passed already a dozen years ago, she was so, but I've been loved. And my number one goal in life is to pass on that love to others in whatever way, through a song, through a word, through a touch, through a cup of chai. I
Yeah.
make chai. I make chai from scratch. I grind the spices. It takes me an hour.
Oh,
And
I've got
I
to try
and
some of that.
oh my God, goodness, I would love to serve it for you, because I love what happens in people's faces when they take a sip. Because most people here, they're just used to chai at like Starbucks or something made
Yeah,
from a mix. And then when they take a
exactly.
taste of real chai, they go, and their face, something happens. They just, oh, this is like a cup of comfort, and they could taste all the spices and the layers. Anyway,
Wow.
you know,
Wow.
so I'm just trying to find ways
No, I love that.
to express love to people and hospitality.
I love that. And what I'm hearing is this common thread throughout your life. As you say, you've been loved. You've experienced it since a kid and up to now in many different ways. And I think your music embodies that. I think one of the things that helps to sustain us throughout history is music and the arts. And
Mhm.
so it is so needed, especially in times like this when anxiety is on the rise and depression is on the rise and so many other things that's pushing in and pressing in and so many disagreements from so many angles. We need people like you to be that gateway that releases heaven on earth. You
Mm.
know, the Lord is always speaking, and I think it's when we listen to him to hear his voice and then do the things that he's asking us to do. Um, it's when we allow him to enter those places and spaces to bring healing and restoration. And I think you're doing exactly that.
Well, yeah, and that's all I want to do. And in some ways it's simple, and in some ways it's not. Like, it's like I think as a man,
Yeah.
and let's just say, as a middle-aged man in our culture, often the role models and the things that are being talked about in the media and in the sporting worlds and in the arts and entertainment world, the, it's like there's so much ego, and there's so many other ways other than the Jesus way that's being
Yeah.
shown to people. And so it's simple, but it's not easy. I have I love going for hikes. It's one of my favorite, and it's like, hiking to me is like a metaphor of life. And I have this hike called the T-Bone Trail in near Phoenix that often I'm there maybe once a year in the winter, at least not during COVID. But and I'll get up at dawn, and I'll go just a couple miles from where we're staying to the base of this trail, and then it's just starting to get light, and then I'll start the hike. And the
Yeah.
first part of the hike is like 30 minutes, and it's hard. it's like all you feel like you're going and your body starts speaking to you like, what are you doing? Like, why are you pushing yourself like this, you know? And I go, I'll tell you why I'm pushing myself like this. The view and the clarity at the top
Hmm.
is waiting for me. So be quiet, you know, I'm going there.
Come
And
on.
I, you know, for 30 minutes, it's not a crazy, the first part of the hike, it's not crazy long, but it takes 30 minutes of push, of energy, of stop, hand, foot, some of,
Yes.
you know, up the rocks, up you go and up. And then all of a sudden you're 30 minutes and you're on top of this ridge, and whatever it is that you're wrestling with or worrying about or anxious about, all of a sudden some of that stuff just literally melts away and you just stand there. You're breathing heavy a little bit because your body has worked to get you there, but there you are. And then you're looking out and you just see, you get perspective. And then I just start emptying, you know, those things that I'm worrying about. I surrender them. I surrender them to my maker. And then I start walking the ridge, and I get this glorious 30 minutes of walking along this ridge. And it's fairly narrow on both sides. There's drop offs on both sides. It's about 2, 3 feet wide on the top of the ridge. And then it just goes down. And you can look all these different directions. And it's like a whole experience. It's like letting go, taking in new wisdom, taking in, and then eventually down the other side of the ridge line, I will then work my way back down. About an hour and a half loop. And, you know, and I just crave that experience of because of what it brings, the clarity it brings. And I think it's a little picture of life too, you know, like there are times when we have to just climb. We have
Yeah.
to just we have to just do the work, and you know, day after day after day. But what's coming? The view is coming. The clarity
Absolutely.
will come, and
Absolutely.
and nobody can do the climb for us. There's no, you can't, you know, hire a substitute if you want the view, if you
Yeah.
want the perspective, if you want the clarity. You have to do it. And so I think about that, and I think about life, and I go, I'm turning 60 this year, and I'm not done, but I'm trying to reflect on what does the next season hold for me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a
As you talk about the climb, uh, as a man and as a father, what's one thing you would say men can do to help reconnect to purpose? I find a lot of men find themselves in this place of being disconnected or struggling to find identity and purpose. How would you speak to that?
mm. Well, I mean, I think actually purpose comes out of identity, right? So I think that the starting point has to be both the receiving in whatever tangible way is possible that I am a beloved son
Yes.
first, right? I'm a beloved son of my Father in heaven. I'm a beloved son of whoever my parents were, even if they were flawed and weren't even able to fully show it. And then, so it starts with that identity. Um, and the identity, of course, isn't just being a son, because there's other roles we play in our world. I mean, for many of us, we're husbands. For many of us, we're fathers ourselves. For many of us, we're good friends to people who need us.
Yeah.
And so then out of those identities, maybe, because it's like an identity, but it's in different roles. Well,
Yeah.
then what is the purpose? Well, in each of those, the purpose is to be faithful, to be, to generate, both energy and support to those that are around us. So, I'm very motivated by what can I do to support my children, not just provide for them, but actually support them. How can I support my wife and my spouse and my partner in a way that demonstrates to her that she not only is my bride and my wife of 40 plus years, but she's actually, her dreams matter. So, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like
Yeah.
it's like this constant thing of
Yeah.
what is these are my this is my identity and my identities. And in each of those, there is connected purposes. Some of those are like tasks, but they're not tasks like a checklist. They're like roles. Like,
That's right.
you know,
That's
like
right.
so yeah, I I and then I think for me, for a lot of men, their work really matters. Like, what do
Yes.
they do for work? And so I try and go, okay, well, what is my identity in my work, and how am I called to serve? And for me, that is, part of it's writing songs, part of it's I spend a lot of my energy, developed a program online called Unlocking Your Songs, where I help other songwriters write their songs. Like, I help coach them and mentor them. So I take all of those roles, like that provides purpose for me. It's not because in that way too, I can serve and I can stay connected to my purpose. Of course, in the journey, like I said, I have days where I am so bewildered. In fact, yesterday morning was a bit of a tough morning for me. I was pretty exhausted from a trip we had done, and we had done a concert, and a couple of people after the concert had made some comments to me that troubled me. They weren't
Mm.
trying to trouble me,
Yeah.
but they said some things, and it made me think about where people are at, and it just troubled me. And I woke up yesterday feeling troubled, and it took me a good chunk of the day to shake it off.
Yeah.
But that's just normal stuff, right? Like we're all in process, and we're all surrounded by people
Yes.
who are often not in a very good place, or they're in a confused place, or they're and I think sometimes people of faith, they try and, it's like they have this round peg solution, and they try and jam it in every gap they see. And
Yes.
sometimes it just is not appropriate and
It
not the
doesn't.
right thing to say or do. They're
No.
just trying one size fits all. I've got my thing, and I'm gonna, like, so
Exactly.
I had a couple of encounters like that, and I walked away a bit bewildered because
Yeah.
I'm a sensitive, empathetic person.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
after a while goes, oh, hey, I don't have to take on board their comments. I can just let it go. God bless them, help them. But anyway.
No,
So,
totally, totally understand. And I think sometimes that happens from a place of um religion versus relationship,
yeah,
and that sometimes creates uh friction. There's good friction and there's bad friction, but
yeah,
friction that is not helpful or healthy,
yeah,
or producing good fruit. And so I think it's good to, I guess, when you're mature enough, you can also sift through what's being said and realize, like, okay, uh this one is not gonna fit right here. This round peg isn't gonna work today.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then it's like you go, okay, grace to them, grace to me.
Yes. Yes.
I'll receive some grace. I'll let it go. And it's moving here because the sun keeps on moving.
That's a lovely background, by the way. For people, let's say worship leaders who are struggling to lead well in church, or write good music, or that sort of environment, what type of encouragement do you have to give to them? Because there are low seasons and high seasons. How does one get through those moments when they feel like they carry so much weight to maybe usher people into God's presence.
Yeah. I mean, I do feel in a sense, I feel for every worship leader out there that feels that responsibility and feels it like on their soul and on their shoulders. And I understand why we feel that, the desire for people to encounter the life-giving, life-changing presence of God. I do think we have to be careful that we don't actually put too much weight on our own shoulders. Yes, we do what we can do, but ultimately, my singing, my playing, my praying, my posture will not cause the presence of God to
Yeah.
enter a place or people to have encounter. That is beyond me. What I need to do is just be me, show up, be open. And, it's like you, there are, we just do the work of faithful, discipline, faithful rehearsal, faithful, so that when you're in that place and maybe you're feeling nothing,
Yeah.
you don't react to your feeling. You just simply do the role that you're called
Yes.
to do, trusting that maybe some feelings will follow, trusting that if you are a loving, open vessel, and if your heart is to receive love and give love, that love will flow through you
Yeah.
to the people that are there. And when I'm leading worship, I am always conscious about, it's almost like in my heart and in my mind, I'm reaching out to the person in the back corner who maybe does barely, even maybe they don't want to be there, or they're hurting. They don't even have the energy to sing. I'm consciously trying to serve them.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be gentle. I'm trying to be invitational in a way that doesn't put any extra weight or guilt or pressure on them. No, come.
That's
Now
right.
is the time. Come just as you are.
That's
You're
right.
you're loved, you're welcome here. And then in that light, hoping that people will have that experience. And then knowing that sometimes, there won't be a connection for them, but maybe the next day when they're going for a walk, then boom, maybe a song will come to mind. They'll start humming, and then all of a sudden they'll feel a connection there.
Yes.
We're not in control of all of those details. What we are in control of is our attitude, whether we're willing to do the preparation work, behind the scenes, and then just being present.
I like that perspective. I know you have a couple of projects that you're working on and some tours that's coming up. Talk to me a little bit about that. I've heard about what is it? The second Noel musical that might be in current
Ah.
development. Do you want to
Mhm.
share anything about that or some of your tours that's coming
Oh,
up?
oh, sure. I mean, the second Noel is a Christmas movie that Marika Seward, who I mentioned before, and I are
Yeah.
working on. And she's been in TV and film for years, and I've written a couple of musicals. And so it just felt like a natural fit for us. We both love Christmas. We love Christmas music.
Come on.
And it's a great time of year to just share love and peace with
Yes.
the world. So I have a Christmas album out which had a song on it called The Second Noel. And when Marika heard it, she went, I'm working on this Chris. I think this is perfect. And then we wrote a
Come
whole
on.
bunch of other new songs. We're planning to actually, Marika and I do a joint Christmas album next year.
Love it.
And then I'm sharing in various ways the love songs from the Love for a Lifetime album.
Yes.
We just pitched a song to country radio actually called Two Souls, One Home. But this has been a really special project because there a number of people have said to me they can't think of a single artist who has ever done an album completely about long love, with every single song about long love. So that's what we did with that project. So you'll keep hearing about that. And then there's just the tour events that we do. We just love getting out and being with people. There's nothing like live music to lift the soul and the spirit. And when people hear, the person who wrote the song, maybe they've sung the song many times in worship or in church, but they've never heard the person who wrote the song sing it,
That's
something
right.
happens, you know. And I can feel that even in the room. You could sing, and sometimes people go, "Well, how do you keep on singing, 'Come Now is the Time to Worship'? You must have sang it hundreds, if not thousands of times, or 'Faithful One' or 'Refiner's Fire.'" I said, "Well,
Yeah.
every time I sing it with a group of people, I know that there's people in the room maybe that have either never sung it before, but they've maybe never heard the guy who wrote the song sing it, and they get the chance to sing it with me, and together it becomes our prayer." So yeah, all of those things we're diving into, and we're grateful for the gift of life and that we can still do this. I don't know. I'm turning 60 this year. How much longer can I do
Come
this?
on.
I hope for a few more decades even, but
Yeah,
you just
yeah,
don't know. Like
yeah.
my dad is 89, and he's
Wow.
still singing strong. And we just did an event together where we sang together. So I hope I can be like my dad and do this for another, 2, 3 decades.
Well, we're declaring that blessings in the genes over you. So,
Yeah.
if we want to find those CDs or music, where and how do we get them? Access to your tour dates and stuff. Is
Yeah.
that on your website?
Yeah.
Remind
Yeah. It's
me
real.
what
Yeah.
what the
Yeah.
website is.
It's just briandoerksen.com. So
Yeah,
Brian and then Doerksen. The O is silent when you pronounce it, because I'm like Dutch German Mennonite background, but we say
got it.
Doerksen, but there's an O in there. So briandoerksen.com. There's an events tab. All of the tour dates are there, link for tickets or info. We have an online store. We ship CDs and vinyl records anywhere in the world. My daughter, Rachel, she manages that. She's awesome.
Lovely.
And yeah, and if anybody wants to reach out, wants to tell me, share a story, maybe a song has meant something to you or whatever, you just click on the contact and then the email comes straight to me. So,
Absolutely. Is there any last words that you'd like to say before you leave?
well, I just want to encourage, maybe especially all the men that are listening, all the fathers, the husbands, the grandparents, the sons, you know, that are the way we express love, the way we express faithfulness, the way we express care, and it's maybe slightly different than the way a woman would express it or a mother. Those
Yeah,
expressions of love and care and faithfulness are really important in our world, and it matters. It really, really matters. So just be encouraged to receive the love. Love people. So receive love, receive your identity, and then out of your identity you have your purpose to give that love, to serve in all the diverse ways, whether you're a mechanic, whether you're a teacher, whether you're an accountant, whether you're an athlete, whether you're working in media, wherever it is you're working with plants or
yeah,
raising livestock. I mean, there's so much diverse ways we serve, but take it as an opportunity to show love to people, and it will be amazing what God does.
absolutely. What a powerful note to end on, Brian. It's such a pleasure having you join us here in the climb. I know those listening into this podcast would be hugely blessed by it, to hear your words of encouragement and just so many life-giving stories that you had to share. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me, and yeah, peace Grace and love to all of you.